We are live.
It's Monday.
Actually, I should take that back. He says we'll do this. He technically says let's do this, and he only says it once, but it is twice because we see it both from both points of view, right?
there you go.
Because we see
Uh,
that's in the chapter where we see where you see it once from Sam's point of view in Feast, and then again from John's point of view in Dance.
yeah. Or is it the other way
Anyway,
around?
no, it's definitely that way.
Oh, is that way Sam's first?
Sam's chapters are only in Feast, and John's chapters are only in Dance.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
I've forgotten.
I threw off our whole opening here.
That's all right. I am old new dude. He is.
Richard York, Asher's trueborn son.
We made it through the weekend.
Uh-oh.
I'm,
You've got a browser window open.
what's that?
You've got a browser window open.
What does that mean?
You've got sound turned up. You don't?
Why? Are you echoing?
Oh, definitely.
I haven't done anything different.
You sure your volume's down on? Huh.
What about now?
No, it's definitely still there. All right, this might be that. This might be that thing with the Chrome browser again.
I can't hear anything from old new dude.
Except his voice. Lizzie says I can hear the voices. Does that mean you hear the double voices? I'm definitely getting the
Technical
echo.
difficulty. Hmm?
Well, technically, it's probably only me hearing it. Do you want to put on a headset, or do you want to just keep going?
Let me go see if I can find one. If you want to go ahead and start reading, I'll jump back in with the headset. Oh.
Does that mean you're hearing them doubled, though, Lizzie? Because I'm definitely hearing echoes. I'm still hearing myself doubled. Okay, good. Yeah, that's the way it was before too, with the StreamYard Chrome bug. So it's probably back for whatever reason. All right. I mean, they were warning us about it for a while, and then they stopped. It seemed like it had gone away. But it's just me, so it's not that big a deal. But I certainly would appreciate it. It's a little weird.
See, if you were like me, you would love the sound of your voice.
I keep hearing. Let's see if I can still hear myself echo here. Oh yeah, I don't know if that's going to make any difference or not.
I plugged the
Yeah,
headset
it's
in.
still going to be there. Yeah, you don't have to. You don't really have to use the headset if you don't want to, I guess, because it doesn't seem like it's
Oh,
making any difference.
okay.
Great. Anyway, this will be fun. All
You
right.
made me get it for
Storm 20,
nothing.
Storm 26, John 3, going down south. The last night fell black and moonless, but for once the sky was clear. I'm going up the hill to look for ghosts, he told the feds at the cave mouth, and they grunted and let him pass. So many stars, he thought as he trudged up the slope through pines and firs and ash. Maester Lewin had taught him his stars as a boy in Winterfell. He'd learned the names of the 12 houses of heaven and the rulers of each. He could find the 7 wanderers sacred to the faith. He was old friends with the ice dragon, the shadow cat, the moon maid, and the sword of the morning. So we know John will ride the ice dragon confirmed. Well, we know Val is a moon maid and Mance is the sword of the morning. See Triple Targaryens episode 6 and 7. But I'm not sure what the shadow cat represents. Maybe the
Well,
lion of night? I don't know.
um, I think the sword of the morning is there's more to it than that.
Oh yeah, I mean it's John, right? It's
Yeah.
the idea that John will, right, and so that would imply also, um, perhaps that he's going to get closer with Val or marry Val, and that he would ride the ice dragon, but the Shadow Cat.
It's a black and white cat.
Yep.
It has been slightly confused with the children of the forest, possibly in the mountains, with the auburn eyes or the.
Okay.
Um, I don't know.
Anyway, it's just speculation. We don't know what that represents yet.
Oh, uh, it's a shadow cat that attacks Mance Raider, right?
It was, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. It was a rabbit hole. I didn't want to go
Huh.
down. It's weird.
Yeah. Anyway, all those he shared with Egret, but not some of the others. We look up at the same stars and see such different things. The king's crown was the cradle to hear her tell it. The stallion was the horn lord. The red wanderer that Septons preached was sacred to their smith. Up here was called the thief. And when the thief was in the moonmaid, that was a propitious time? Whatever. For a man to steal a woman, Egret insisted. Like the night you stole me. The thief was bright that night. I never meant to steal you, he said. I never knew you were a girl until my knife was at your throat. If you kill a man and never mean to, he's just as dead, Egret said stubbornly. John had never met anyone so stubborn, except maybe for his little sister Arya. Is she still my sister? He wondered. Was she ever? He'd never truly been a Stark. Only Lord Eddard's motherless bastard, with no more place at Winterfell than Theon Greyjoy. And even that he'd lost. When a man of the Night's Watch said his words, he put aside his old family and joined a new one. But Jon Snow had lost those brothers too. So I certainly get why R plus L equals J theorists love this paragraph, but for us, the irony is Jon is the only living true Stark with the possible exception of Benjen.
Right.
He found Ghost atop the hill, as he thought he might. The White Wolf never howled, yet something drew him to the heights all the same, and he would squat there on his hindquarters, hot breath rising in a white mist as his red eyes drank the stars. See our discussion in Jon 7 of Clash for how the one exception to this might foreshadow Bran speaking as Hodor.
Yeah. Now, is he going to the high places to listen?
It seemed like it in the dream where he actually did make a noise.
Right. Well, I mean, that would be the implication is that Ghost is going to the high places. He's not there to, unless he's speaking in his own way, a hidden language that he has or whatever. But he's either speaking and listening or just listening.
Right.
Which would mean
names?
that they are using possibly God speak to communicate with each other. This
Sure.
far as the wolves go.
Yeah, it certainly seems possible. Do you have names for them as well? Jon asked as he went to one knee beside the direwolf and scratched the thick white fur on his neck. The hare, the doe, the she-wolf? Ghost licked his face, his rough, wet tongue rasping against the scabs where the eagle's talons had ripped Jon's cheek. The bird marked both of us, he thought. Ghost, he said quietly, on the morrow we go over. There's no steps here, no Cajun crane, no way for me to get you to the other side. We have to part, do you understand? In the dark, the direwolf's red eyes looked black. He nuzzled at Jon's neck, silent as ever, his breath a hot mist. The wildlings called Jon Snow a warg, but if so, he was a poor one. He did not know how to put on a wolfskin, the way Orell had with his eagle before he died. Once Jon had dreamed that he was Ghost, looking down upon the valley of the Milkwater where Mance Rayder had gathered his people. And that dream had turned out to be true. He was not dreaming now, and that left him only words. And of course, I think that's what we're talking about with Brand 7 of Clash, right?
Yeah.
You cannot come with me, Jon said, cupping the wolf's head in his hands and looking deep into those eyes. You have to go to Castle Black. Do you understand? Castle Black. Can you find it? The way home? Just follow the ice, east and east, into the sun, and you'll find it. They will know you at Castle Black, and maybe your coming will warn them. He'd thought of writing out a warning for Ghost to carry, but he had no ink, no parchment, not even a writing quill, and the risk of discovery was too great. I'll meet you again at Castle Black, but you have to get there by yourself. We must each hunt alone for a time. Alone. The direwolf twisted free of Jon's grasp, his ears pricked up, and suddenly he was bounding away. He leaped through a tangle of brush, leapt a deadfall, and raced down the hillside, a pale streak among the trees. Off to Castle Black, Jon wondered, or off after a hare? He wished he knew. He feared he might prove just as poor a warg as a sworn brother and a spy. A wind sighed through the trees, rich with the smell of pine needles, tugging at his faded blacks. Jon could see the wall looming high and dark to the south, a great shadow blocking out the stars. We get a lot of these shadows blocking out stars or the sun.
Yeah.
The rough, hilly ground made him think they must be somewhere between the Shadow Tower and Castle Black, and likely closer to the former. For days they'd been wending their way south between deep lakes that stretched like long, thin fingers along the floors of narrow valleys, while flint ridges and pine-clad hills jostled against one another to either side. Such ground made for slow riding, but offered easy concealment for those wishing to approach the wall unseen. For a
What
while,
did
they
Todd say?
tricked you into exercising. Tyrion had a shadow cat pelt. I don't know if that has any significance to the symbology of the cat. Right, right.
Well, I mean, if those are people that he's going to be associated with, then I mean, the Shadowcat for Tyrion, the Moon Maid for Val,
Oh, and he's a lion, and a lion is a form of a cat.
and then the Sword of the Morning could actually mean Mance Rayder instead
Well,
of
he is
Jon
old
Snow.
friends. He is old friends with Tyrion at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like that better than anything else we found. For wildling raiders, he thought, like us, like me. Beyond that wall lay the Seven Kingdoms and everything he'd sworn to protect. He'd said the words, had pledged his life and honor, and by rights, he should be up there standing sentry. He should be raising a horn to his lips to rouse the Night's Watch to arms. He had no horn, though. It would not be hard. He had no horn, though. It would not be hard to steal one from the wildlings he suspected. But what would that accomplish? Even if he blew it, there was no one to hear. The wall was 100 leagues long, and the watch sadly dwindled. All but 3 of the strongholds had been abandoned. There might not be a brother within 40 miles of here, but for Jon, if he was a brother still. I should have tried to kill Mance Rayder on the fist, even if it meant my life. That was what Corin Halfhand would have done. Was it? But Jon had hesitated, and the chance passed. The next day he had ridden off with Stir the Magnar, Jarl, and more than 100 picked thens and raiders. He told himself that he was only biding his time, that when the moment came, he would slip away and ride for Castle Black. The moment never came. They rested most nights in empty wildling villages, and Stir always sent a dozen of his thens to guard the horses. Jarl watched him suspiciously, and Ygritte was never far, day or night. So I do question whether Corin would actually have done that. I suspect that Corin is actually still in contact with Mance, as we'll see here in a little bit.
Yeah.
2 hearts that beat as one. Mance Rayder's mocking words rang bitter in his head. Jon had seldom felt so confused. I have no choice, he told himself the first time when she slipped beneath his sleeping skins. If I refuse her, she'll know me for a turncloak. I'm playing the part the half-hand told me to play. His body had played the part eagerly enough. His lips on hers, his hands sliding under her doeskin shirt to find a breast, his manhood stiffening when she rubbed her mouth against it through their clothes. My vows, he thought, remembering the Weirwood Grove where he had said them, the 9 great white trees in a circle, the carved red faces watching, listening. But her fingers were undoing his laces, and her tongue was in his mouth, and her hands slipped inside his small clothes and brought him out, and he could not see the Weirwoods anymore, only her. She bit his neck, and he nuzzled hers, burying his nose in her thick red hair. Lucky, he thought. She's lucky. Fire-kissed. Isn't that good? She whispered as she guided him inside her. She was sopping wet down there, and no maiden, that was plain. But Jon did not care. His vows, her maidenhood, none of it mattered. Only the heat of her, the mouth on his, the finger that pinched at his nipple. Isn't that sweet? She said again. Not so fast. Oh, slow, yes, like that. There now, yes, sweet, sweet. You know nothing, Jon Snow, but I can show you. Harder now, yes. A part he tried to remind himself afterward. I played a part. I had to do it once, to prove I'd abandoned my vows. I had to make her trust me. It need never happen again. He was still a man of the Night's Watch and a son of Eddard Stark. He'd done what needed to be done, proved what needed to be proven. The proving had been so sweet, though, and Ygritte had gone to sleep beside him with her head against his chest. And that was sweet as well, dangerously sweet. He thought of the Weirwoods again and the words he'd said before them. It was only once, and it had to be. Even my father stumbled once when he forgot his marriage vows and sired a bastard. Jon vowed to himself that it would be the same with him. It will never happen again. It will be the same with him. Your father sired 5 bastards. You know nothing, Jon Stark. It happened twice more that night, and again in the morning when she woke to find him hard. The wildlings were stirring by then, and several could not help but notice what was going on beneath the pile of furs. Jarl told them to be quick about it before he had to throw a pail of water over them. Like a pair of running dogs, Jon thought afterward. Was that what he'd become? I'm a man of the Night's Watch, a small voice insisted, but every night it seemed a little fainter, and when Ygritte kissed his ears or bit his neck, he could not hear it at all. Was this how it was for my father, he wondered? Was he as weak as I am? He dishonored himself in my mother's bed? Not exactly. Something was coming up the hill behind him, he realized suddenly. For half a heartbeat, he thought it might be Ghost come back, but the direwolf never made so much noise. John drew Longclaw in a single smooth motion, but it was only one of the Thens, a broad man in a bronze helm. Snow, the intruder said. Come, Magnar wants. The men of Then spoke the old tongue, and most had only a few words of the common. John did not much care what the Magnar wanted, but there was no use arguing with someone who could scarcely understand him, so he followed the man back down the hill. The mouth of the cave was a cleft in the rock, barely wide enough for a horse, half concealed behind a soldier pine. It opened to the north, so the glows of the fires within would not be visible from the wall. Even if by some mischance the patrol should happen to pass atop the wall tonight, they would see nothing but hills and pines and the icy sheen of starlight on a half-frozen lake. Mance Rayder had planned his thrust well. Within the rock, the passage descended 20 feet before it opened out onto a space as large as Winterfell's great hall. Cook fires burned amongst the columns, their smoke rising to blacken the stony ceiling. The horses had been hobbled along one wall beside a shallow pool. A sinkhole in the center of the floor opened on what might have been an even greater cavern below, though the darkness made it hard to tell. John could hear the soft rushing sound of an underground stream somewhere below as well. Too many to keep count in this chapter. I'll just say this. Trust the symbolism, Cord. Yeah, I kind of thought when I mentioned the I kind of thought when I mentioned that
Mance had planned his thrust well.
No. Actually, I was referring to the John Stark. When I called him John Stark, that probably was what Lizzie. That was probably what Lizzie counting. Girl Nettles says, "Hey, good to have you here, Girl Nettles."
Hey, Nettles.
Jarl was with the Magnar. Mance had given them joint command. Styr was none too pleased by that, John had noted early on. Mance Rayder had called the Dark Youth a pet of Val, who was sister to Dala, his own queen, which made Jarl a sort of good brother once removed to the king beyond the wall. The Magnar plainly resented sharing his authority. He'd brought 100 Thens, 5 times as many men as Jarl, and often acted as if he had the sole command. But it would be the younger man who got them over the ice, John knew. Though he could not have been older than, really, John. Anyway, you know nothing, Jon Snow. Though he could not have been older than 20, Jarl had been raiding for 8 years and had gone over the wall a dozen times with the likes of Alfin Crowkiller and the Weeper, and more recently with his own band. The Magnar was direct. Jarl has warned me of crows patrolling on high. Tell me all you know of these patrols. Tell me, John noted, not tell us, though Jarl stood right beside him. He would have liked nothing better than to refuse the brusque demand, but he knew Styr would put him to death with the slightest disloyalty, and Egret as well for the crime of being his. There are 4 men in each patrol, 2 rangers and 2 builders, he said. The builders are supposed to make note of cracks, melting, and other structural problems, while the rangers look for signs of foes. They ride mules. Mules? The earless man frowned. Mules are slow. Slow, but more sure-footed on the ice. Patrols often ride atop the wall, and aside from Castle Black, the paths up there have not been graveled for long years. The mules are bred at Eastwatch, and especially trained to their duty. They often ride atop the wall, but not always? No. One patrol in 4 follows the base instead to search for cracks in the foundation ice or signs of tunneling. The Magnar nodded. Even in Far Fen, we know the tale of Arson Iceaxe and his tunnel. Sorry. I still got that COVID cough. John knew the tale as well. Arson Iceaxe had been halfway through the wall when his tunnel was found by rangers from the Night Fort. They did not trouble to disturb him in his digging, only sealed the way behind with ice and stone and snow. Dolorous Ed used to say that if you pressed your ear flat to the wall, you could still hear Arson chipping away with his axe. So LML has argued that Arson Iceaxe means ice dragon, so perhaps Ed is actually hearing the heartbeat of the ice dragon powering the wall. Anyway.
I like that.
Yep. I think his argument is that arson is usually fire, and fire-made flesh is dragons, and so his name is Fire and Ice, and so the ice dragon would be that. Anyway, it's I know it's a little convoluted, but his argument was that the name meant ice dragon. I'm like, well, if that name means ice dragon, then that could be a hint that you can actually hear the ice dragon's heart. Anyway, when do these patrols go out? How often? John shrugged. It changes. I've heard that Lord Commander Corgyle used to send them out every 3rd day from Castle Black to Eastwatch by the Sea, and every 2nd day from Castle Black to the Shadow Tower. The Watch had more men in his day, though. Lord Commander Mormont prefers to vary the number of patrols and the days of their departure to make it more difficult for anyone to know their comings and goings. And sometimes the old bear will even send a larger force to one of the abandoned castles for a fortnight or a moon's turn. His uncle had originated that tactic, John knew. Anything to make the enemy unsure. Is Stone Door manned at present? Asked Jarl. Greyguard? So we're between those two, are we? John kept his face carefully blank. Only Eastwatch, Castle Black, and the Shadow Tower were manned when I left the wall. I can't speak to what Bowen Marsh or Sir Dennis might have done since. How many crows remain within the castles? Asked Styr. 500 at Castle Black, 200 at the Shadow Tower, perhaps 300 at Eastwatch. John added 300 men to the count. If only it were that easy. Jar was not fooled, however. He's lying, he told Stir, or else including those they lost in the fist. So since they had 300 at the fist, Jarl seems to know the exact count.
Yeah.
So I think Mance gets this from Corin and that they're still in contact. But anyway,
The scene with Mance at the Fist of the First Man with Jon was just for show.
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I fully buy into the whole Jon conspiracy amongst Mance, right? But of course that's because I think he's Arthur, not because I think he's Rhaegar. But anyway,
Yeah.
and I think and of course that means that the blood would mean that Jon would be a Dane, of course, rather than people saying blood means that that he's Rhaegar and Rhaegar's son. But anyway. Crow, the Magnar warned, do not take me for Mance Rayder. If you lie to me, I will have your tongue. I'm no crow and won't be called a liar. Jon flexed the fingers of his sword hand. The Magnar then studied Jon with his chilling gray eyes. We shall learn their numbers soon enough, he said after a moment. Go. I will send for you if I have further questions. Jon bowed his head stiffly and went. If all the wildlings were like Stir, it would be easier to betray them. The Fens were not like other free folk, though. The Magnar claimed to be the last of the first men, ruled with an iron hand. His little land of Fen was a high mountain valley hidden amongst the northernmost peaks of the Frostpangs, surrounded by cave dwellers, hornfoot men, giants, and the cannibal clans of the Ice Rivers. Ygritte said the Fens were savage fighters, and that their Magnar was a god to them. Jon could believe that. Unlike Jarl and Harma and Rattleshirt, Stir commanded absolute obedience from his men, and that discipline was no doubt part of why Mance had chosen him to go over the wall. He walked past the Fens, sitting atop their rounded bronze helms about their cook fires. Where did Ygritte get herself to? He found her gear and his together, but no sign of the girl herself. She took a torch and went off that way, Grig the goat told him, pointing toward the back of the cavern. Jon followed his finger and found himself in a dim back room, wandering through a maze of columns and stalactites. She can't be here, he was thinking when he heard her laugh. He turned toward the sound, but within 10 paces he was in a dead end, facing a blank wall of rose and white flowstone. Baffled, he made his way back the way he'd come. Then he sought a dark hole under an outthrust of wet stone. He knelt, listened, heard the faint sound of water. Ygritte? In here, her voice came back, echoing faintly. Jon had to crawl a dozen paces before the cave opened up around him. When he stood again, it took his eyes a moment to adjust. Ygritte had brought a torch, but there was no other light. She stood beside a little waterfall that fell from a cleft in the rock down into a wide, dark pool. The orange and yellow flames showed against the pale green water. What are you doing here? He asked her. I heard water. I wanted to see how deep the cave went. She pointed with the torch. There's a passage, goes down further. I followed 100 paces before I turned back. A dead end? You know nothing, Jon Snow. It went on and on and on. There are hundreds of caves in these hills, and down deep they all connect. There's even a way under your wall, Gordon's way. Maybe I should be keeping count of all the times George uses the word thrust in this chapter. Gorn, said Jon. Gorn was king beyond the wall. Aye, said Ygritte, together with his brother Gendel 3,000 years ago. They led a host of free folk through the caves, and the watch was none the wiser. When they come out, the wolves of Winterfell fell upon them. There was a battle, Jon recalled. Gorn slew the king of the north, but his son picked up his banner and took the crown from his head and cut down Gorn in turn. And the sound of swords woke the crows in their castles, and they rode out all in black to take the free folk in the rear. That sounds a little sexy too there. All right, anyway. Yes, Gendel had the king to the south, the Umbers to the east, and the watch to the north of him. He died as well. You know nothing, Jon Snow. Gendel did not die. He cut his way free through the crows and led his people back north with the wolves howling at their heels. Only Gendel did not know the caves as Gord had and took a wrong turn. She swept the torch back and forth so the shadows jumped and moved. Deeper he went and deeper, and when he tried to turn back, the ways that seemed familiar ended in stone rather than sky. Soon his torches began to fail, one by one, till finally there was naught but dark. Gendel's folk were never seen again. But on a still night, you could hear their children's children sobbing under the hills, still looking for the way back up. Listen, do you hear them? All Jon could hear was the falling water and the faint crackle of flames. This way under the wall was lost as well? Some have searched for it. Then to go too deep, find Gendel's children, and Gendel's children are always hungry. Smiling, she set the torch carefully in a notch of rock and came toward him. There's naught to eat in the dark but flesh, she whispered, biting at his neck. Jon nuzzled her hair and filled his nose with the smell of her. You sound like old Nan telling Bran a monster story. Ygritte punched his shoulder. An old woman, am I? You're older than me. Aye, and wiser. You know nothing, Jon Snow. She pushed away from him and shrugged out of her rabbit skin vest. What are you doing? Showing you how old I am. She unlaced her doeskin shirt, tossed it aside, pulled her 3 woolen undershirts up over her head all at once. I want you should see me. We shouldn't. We should. Her breast bounced as she stood on one leg to pull one boot, then hopped on her other foot to tend to the other. Her nipples were wide pink circles. You as well, Egret said as she yanked down her sheepskin breeches. If you want to look, you have to show. You know nothing, Jon Snow. I know I want you, he heard himself say, all his vows and all his honor forgotten. She stood before him, naked as her name day, and he was as hard as the rock around them. He'd been at her 100 times by now, but always beneath the firs, with others all around them. He'd never seen how beautiful she was. Her legs were skinny but well muscled, the hair at the juncture of her thighs a brighter red than that on her head. Does that make it even luckier? He pulled her close. I love the smell of you, he said. I love your red hair. I love your mouth and the way you kiss me. I love your smile. I love your teats. He kissed them, one and then the other. I love your skinny legs and what's between them. He knelt to kiss her there, lightly on her mound at first, but Egret moved her legs apart a little, and he saw the pink inside and kissed that as well and tasted her. She gave a little gasp. If you love me all so much, why are you still dressed? She whispered. You know nothing, Jon Snow. Not, oh. Afterwards, she was almost shy, or as shy as Egret ever got. That thing you did, she said when they lay together on their piled clothes, with your mouth. She hesitated. Is that what lords do to their ladies down in the south? I don't think so. No one had ever told Jon just what lords did with their ladies. I only wanted to kiss you there, that's all. You seem to like it. I liked it some. No one taught you such? There's been no one, he confessed. Only you. A maid, she teased. You were a maid? He gave her closest nipple a playful pinch. I was a man of the Night's Watch. Was, he heard himself say. What was he now? He did not want to look at that. Were you a maid? Egret pushed herself onto an elbow. I am 19 and a spearwife and kissed by fire. How can I be a maiden? Who was he? A boy at a feast 5 years past. He'd come trading with his brothers, and he had hair like mine, kissed by fire. So I thought he would be lucky, but he was weak. When he came back to try and steal me, Longspear broke his arm and ran him off. He never tried again, not once. It wasn't Longspear then? Jon was relieved. He liked Longspear with his homely face and friendly ways. She punched him. That's vile. Would you bed your sister? I don't know. Maybe in the original outline. Anyway.
Yeah, maybe.
Longspear's not your brother. He's of my village. You know nothing, Jon Snow. A true man steals a woman from far to strengthen the clan. Women who bed brothers or fathers or clanskin offend the gods and are cursed with weak and sickly children, even monsters. Craster weds his daughters, Jon pointed out. She punched him again. Craster's more your kind than ours. His father was a crow who stole a woman out of White Tree Village, but after he had her, he flew back to his wall. She went to Castle Black once to show the crow his son, but the brothers blew their horns and run her off. Craster's blood is black, and he bears a heavy curse. She ran her fingers lightly across his stomach. I feared you'd do the same once. Fly back to the wall. You never knew what to do after you stole me. Of course, we think that he's probably one of the two primary Targaryens at the wall.
Right.
There's certainly we've got Maester Aemon talks about he implies like he's held a newborn babe when he talks, and of course there's all the incest and the concept that might be Targaryen related.
If you stop and think about it, the black blood would lean more to Bloodraven for him being mostly freaking dead.
Yeah, maybe. Certainly, it's easier to picture him behaving that way.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really kind of see Aemon being like that, but
yeah. Jon sat up. Egret, I never stole you. Ah, you did. You jumped down the mountain and killed Oral, and before I could get my axe, you had a knife at my throat. I thought you'd have me then, or kill me, or maybe both, but you never did. When I told you the tale of Bael the Bard and how he plucked the Rose of Winterfell, I thought you'd know to pluck me then for certain, but you didn't. You know nothing, Jon Snow. She gave him a shy smile. You might be learning something, though. The light was shifting all about her. Jon noticed suddenly. He looked around. We'd best go up. The torch is almost done. Is the crow a fear to Gendel's children? She said with a grin. It's only a little way up, and I'm not done with you, Jon Snow. She pushed him back down on the clothes and straddled him. Would you? She hesitated. What? He prompted as the torch began to gutter. Do it again, Egret blurted, with your mouth. The Lord's kiss? And I could see if you liked it any. By the time the torch burned out, Jon Snow no longer cared. His guilt came back afterward, but weaker than before. If this is so wrong, he wondered, why did the gods make it feel so good? The, grot- the grotto was a question many have asked. Anyway, the grotto was pitch dark by the time they finished. The only light was the dim glow of the passage back up to the larger cavern, where a score of fires burned. They were soon fumbling and bumping into each other as they tried to dress in the dark. Egret stumbled in the pool and screeched at the cold of the water. When Jon laughed, she pulled him in too. They wrestled and splashed in the dark, and then she was in his arms again, and it turned out they were not finished after all. Jon Snow, she told him, when he'd spent his seat inside her. Don't move now, sweet. I like the feel of you in there. I do. Let's not go back to stir and jarl. Let's go down inside and join up with Gendel's children. I don't ever want to leave this cave, Jon Snow, not ever. So she may have been pregnant, Jon Snow may be a kinslayer.
Mm.
Up next, Storm 27, Daenerys 3. A dragon is no slave, is the exact way she says it, actually. Dragon is no slave.
So what do you think about her being pregnant?
Yeah, I think so. I think Jon likes that kind of. I mean, I think George likes that kind of irony, and we know that he actually does change his arrows twice during the fight. So it's definitely. And he tells himself it's not one of his. Somebody usually tells himself something when they're afraid that it might be the other way around, right?
Yeah.
So I think George probably cruelly likes the irony. Sadly.
Well, I mean, how would he let us know though?
This is it. This is as close as he gets. I mean, as I've said, I think he actually does like ambiguity.
Yeah.
He likes the idea of putting down something that some people will see one way and some people see the other, and they can choose the interpretation that they like better.
Right.
I'm not sure if I actually like the irony there, so maybe I should choose the alternative.
Yeah, I don't like the.
Okay, so maybe we'll ignore the two arrow changes.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, we got to see how would any of that mirror anything Ned did?
Kind of, I suppose.
Meaning that the first wife did get pregnant.
Right. So, yeah. And of course, he
Rob that
probably
mirror
insisted that she fake her own death too, right?
Well, yeah. There's a death there. Just one's fake, one's real. And then you got the Rob mirroring. Then his first wife would be pregnant as well.
Ah, good point.
So
you've made that argument.
Yeah. I tend to think that she is pregnant, and you pointed out the hip size, the possibly being he forgot kind of a misprint type thing, and I tend to think that it was done on purpose to give eagle-eyed readers the little hint that they're not the same person.
Jon fathered a bastard, self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah, good point.
Well, yeah. they're not.
She probably has to be pregnant. That's a good point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if he stole her in the north, they're wedded, so it wouldn't be a bastard.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, it'd be true-born.
That's fair.
It would be true-born, just like Jon.
Through their customs, he's married to her. That's a good point.
Yeah. Right. Just like through their customs, Ned and Ashara are married, and Jon would be true-born.
And Rob and Osha are arguably married.
This is true. I don't think he got her pregnant though.
True. Yeah, that marriage was never consummated, so maybe it doesn't count.
Yeah.
She does seem to have the loyalty though.
Yeah. Which is odd though. I mean, you're captive to House Stark, but you're extremely loyal.
Yeah, that's fair, Girl Nettles. Making the same argument as the bigamy Yorks and Lancaster argument. Yeah, I'll buy that. That makes sense. No, you're right. It's that's the whole concept of. I know George said that was a. Whoops, you're switching sides again. You switch sides on us.
And-
Anyway, yeah, no, I know that George was very he seemed genuinely flabbergasted. I pointed that out to old new dude, and because we already got to the part where Catelyn notes her good hips, right? And so I brought it. I went ahead and read the quote where Jamie indicates that she has narrow hips, and
right.
we discussed this. Yeah, and yeah, he definitely said that it was just unintended and it was an error that he seemed genuinely surprised. I pointed that out, and old new dude was like, "Yeah, but still, he could
What is
go
he
with
gonna
it."
say?
You pointed out to him. Maybe he goes with it though, right? Maybe he runs into the
Yeah.
story.
Well, I mean, if you point, I mean, if you throw it right in his face where it's either a yes or no question, George doesn't give yes or no answers, but it's an error still hides the actual truth of the words on the page.
Is there and would she be a spear wife? Is there a difference between a spear wife and a regular wife according to wildling custom? Like a thrall, salt wife, real wife? That I don't think that there's a difference there.
No.
But I do like your pointing out that if he had a previous oath, that matches the whole bigamy, York's Lancaster kind of thing. See, Triple Targaryens, episode 1.
Yeah, but see, Egret knows about the oath. The Wildlings know about the oath that they give.
And they still consider the marriage valid. She does.
Yeah,
she does. But with Jon and with the people in the South and so forth. I mean, it definitely same logic goes for the concept of Ned being married to Ashara or Robb being married to Robb. You could have said the phrase, say, well, it doesn't count because it was in front of a tree, and as Melisandre says, a vow to a tree is no more valid than a vow to your shoe.
Right. But yeah, it's all about where you're standing. And
right. So it's still so Girl Nettles is right. It definitely fits the pattern, right? Of what
definitely. I didn't think about that. So that's an awesome catch, Nettles.
Yeah, absolutely.
It definitely fits the Ned Ashara.
Or York Lancaster, if you want to look at this as the Wars of the Roses and so forth.
Man, I don't want no history lesson. You hush.
Oh yeah, you do. You love it.
I know I do. I forget the guy's name. He's done a couple of interviews with George R. Martin, and he is really good when it comes to European history. And I mean, I was sitting there watching. I think like George, I mean, he loves the War of the Roses without a doubt. Because I mean, it was an hour-long special. I cannot remember the guy's name. Young guy too.
I agree with Paul, by the way. I think so. Nettle says, I think Jon's oath take precedence since he's on duty right now. He's still a watchman. Pod's disagreeing with, of course, your take, old dude. Usually George is tight-lipped on answers. He doesn't say, I made an error. It's supposed to be the same. Right. I agree with Pod that I agree with you, Pod.
You are too.
Girl Nettles says, every time he forks Egret, he is fulfilling his oath because he's an undercover agent. Right. No, I get that.
Everybody's right but me. Fine, it's Monday.
No. I mean, you're certainly. I believe people are entitled to their own interpretations, and
I'm fine with it.
No problem.
Well, I mean, Lady Thistle will definitely tell you I am not set in stone on any opinion whatsoever. I can be swayed,
except for Tormund.
Yeah, except for Tormund, I will not move from that hill.
What about Triplet Targaryens? What about Triplet Targaryens?
You know I'm on there for Triplet Targaryens.
I know. I'm just kidding.
It was like my second or third video, and I'm like, and one of the people on Twitter kind of bashed me for it, because I go, talking about Tower of Joy. I'm like the two babiys,
right? Because you're trying to do. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to combine everything, including the hints that they could have been hiding in the crypts, and so you want therefore to combine this with going to the Tower of Joy and so forth. And so you're like, could it be done? And you're arguing that it can be done. And
no. This was not when I was asking about the bed of blood at Tower of Joy, and this was like I forget which video it was, but it was toward the beginning. It's one of the old ones. I think I still had a ball cap on then, maybe. I was thinking there was 2 to 3 babies born in the Tower of Joy, but I know the opinions vary. And so I tried to accommodate everybody by saying baby, twins, triplets. And then somebody was bashing me, triplets. What are you talking about? Triplets. It's Danny. I'm like, okay.
Right, Lady Thistle. Lady Thistle says they're married just like Ned. Married is a duty to someone else. Ned for the army and John for the watch, but married or not married, either way, it rhymes in their stories. Yeah, right. So setting aside the idea that you mean that you're setting aside, although in this case the oath is predates the marriage versus taking a marriage oath, but definitely rhyming the stories.
Yeah.
Pod says, also, I'm not an OBGYN, but I'm pretty sure narrow-hipped women can still get pregnant.
Yeah. Well,
good point.
I agree 100%, but Jamie is pretty adamant about making sure that the woman that is brought in front of him is not pregnant. There had to be a 2-year wait before she's remarried, so there's no question whatsoever.
Right. It allows that to happen without people realizing it and so forth, off screen and so forth.
Yeah. It's okay.
Or off the page.
Yeah. I'm not an OBGYN either, Pod. But you've had higher learnings in school than I have. So if one of us is closer to being an OBGYN, it's going to be you than me. Because I graduated high school. That was it.
Yeah, nobody ever taught John what to do with what lords did with their ladies. He's the least OBGYN.
I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, it was hard not to blush through this chapter. I don't know if it came across on camera or not, but I'm just looking down like, don't look up, don't look up, don't look up.
I'm kind of surprised how quickly we went through this.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be longer than that.
It wasn't that short of a chapter. We stopped a few times to talk about some things. I'm just kind of surprised.
Not as many times as we normally stop on some of the chapters. And there's chapters that we hardly stop at all. It's just
there were lots of voices heard himself say and voices and so forth, and we didn't stop and talk about each of those either.
Yeah. I do have an idea on Jarl.
Lady says, I was cheesy the whole time.
Val's pet. The reason he falls is to free Val up. If he doesn't get killed at the Castle Black.
You're saying it might even have been intervention.
A little bit. It's possible. I mean, granted, I think all of them die at Castle Black. Excuse me. Anyways, but just in case Jarl doesn't die, him being sent, him falling, frees kind of Val up from her pet.
Well, and he's somebody who could have gotten away and then climbed back over too.
Yeah, I mean, especially when the defenses of Castle Black seem to hold. Even when the stairs are set on fire type situation, I mean, there's plenty of opportunity that he could have escaped. And he could have definitely got back over. So, yeah, I think he died on purpose. Maybe.
All right. Well, next time it's the part 2 of the Unsullied purchase.
Not a problem. I'm not going to gross people out with a picture of my stitches on the on Discord. But I had my son take a picture of it. And apparently the lady that cut my back took in consideration my tattoo. So instead of doing the triangle, no, that's probably the wrong shape to do on this chapter. They do the little football cut. They do the little football cut and then stitch it back together. I thought it was going to be straight up and down, and she did it at an angle to where it stitched back up, and she almost took out hardly any of my tattoo. And when we took a picture of it, I'm like, oh wow, she hooked me. I told him not to worry about a tattoo. Take more than you needed. I don't care. But she still took into consideration either that or was the way you like that, didn't you, Charles? The way the skin moves, that may be why she did it, but it worked out. I don't have to touch up anything on my tattoo whatsoever, so it worked out great on that part. But I can do this without like wincing in pain. But I still can't put my hand on top of the steering wheel and drive with my left hand because it's nonstop tightening of that back, and I mean, it's getting better.
Hope you're feeling good, dude. Oh, gee, show us the triangle. I was never good at math.
It's okay. I love our book club.
Show us the triangle, huh? Is that what the kids are calling it these days?
Yeah. I thought it had something to do with a chicken, but that might be something else.
All right.
All right,
Well,
we're at
let's go ahead and wrap
45.
it up.
We're a little early.
Yep.
But okay, we got what? Oh, Danny 3. Dragon is no slave.
But going forth and multiplying, but that's all I remember.
That's not the talk that they take the boys into one room and talk to the boys, and then take the girls to the other room and talk to the girls.
Sure.
Oh, you talking about the Holy Trinity?
No, you're right. She's
Okay.
talking about.
Okay. The talk.
Yeah.
All right. Danny 3.
She's making jokes about math being about multiplying and so forth.
There you go. It's Monday. I appreciate all y'all joining us. Oh, we got up to 10 people today. I am so sorry. This was the chapter that we went up to 10. And he didn't cut anything.
No, I didn't.
To everybody's season.
Whereas I'm talking about math. Of course you are, Lady Thistle. Of course you are.
Exactly.
And triangles, obviously.
All right. So to the extra people that joined today, I'm sorry. Please come back on Wednesday. It won't be that kind of chapter.
No. We had two in a row here. I yada yada the sex on the last one because it's such a long chapter. But
Yeah.
this one we had enough time to go in
Go
great
all the
detail.
way in. Is that the way in?
Yes, deeper and deeper.
Deeper. George needs to add one more thrust to that chapter. All right, y'all. We'll see y'all on Hump Day, Wednesday with Danny 3.
All right.
Y'all take care. We appreciate it. Bye, Richard.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.